Okay, good evening and welcome to another episode of the Halftime Podcast, which has been brought to you by the halftimecuppa.com. My name is Jonny Naidoo and I'm pleased to bring another fantastic episode featuring Tottenham fan Alec Swansborough. How are you, Alec? You all right?
Not bad, mate. Yeah, you all right?
Yeah, can't complain. And also Norwich City fan Danny Cook. How are you, Danny?
Someone's got to be in there.
This is very true. Okay, I myself am a QPR fan, so we have a bit of a diverse sort of range of clubs. So it's cool. Before we begin, you can catch up with any of our other previous episodes on iTunes, Spotify, on our website at halftimecuppa.com. Today we're going to go through, look back at the results from the Premier League and the Championship, another really busy and dramatic weekend in the top flight as well, and also we're going to look back at the results from the Championship last night, as well as, of course, all the drama from the Champions League, of which there was plenty of it. So we'll start, I think, with the big game really over the weekend, which was, of course, the Manchester derby. Who saw that result coming, really?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. Especially after United played so badly midweek. They had such a
Sorry.
performance.
There we go.
Yeah. And City just didn't look like they were going to do anything, did they?
No, I mean, it seems to me that United, especially over the last few years under Solskjaer, seem to only really turn up when they play teams like Man City. I mean, that's 3 wins on the trot now, I think, for Solskjaer at City. So I mean, it seems like the perfect game. He seems to be challenging Sir Alex Ferguson, to be honest, for games like that. But for them to come from a 21 match winning run to lose a game like that was a bit of a shock. But Danny, do you think that's going to really hamper their chances to win the title, City, or do you think they'll still run away with it?
No, I think they'll still run away with it. I think it's looking quite comfortable for them. I think, to be fair, yeah, as you said, like Solskjaer has got this sort of this little thing going on about turning up and winning these games. So fair play to him. Whether it is a bit of Fergie in the background, I don't know, but fair play. I think they were the better team from what I saw. I agree. Penalty was a bit foolish, but they got it. They deserved it, and you know what? They won. So, yeah, I think United they've actually had quite a decent season. I don't know if you guys agree with that. I feel like they've had a decent season, but I don't think they're quite on the same level as like United of old, Sir Alex kind of standard yet.
No, I think they're quite far off that. But I mean, compared to last season, Bruno Fernandes is obviously is running the show for them, and they seem to be just ticking along. And I think a top 4 challenge is definitely within grasp for them. Obviously, before they 3 goalless draws in a row against Palace, and obviously against Real Sociedad before in the Europa League. So I think for them to come and get a result like that was absolutely outstanding. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to massively affect the title race. Alec, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I don't see it affecting the title race. No, I think it's all said and done in terms of City. I think it's going to be interesting looking at City and actually previewing the game that's going on today. Is Sergio Aguero, and whether he's going to sign a new contract, whether he's getting the minutes. Guardiola apparently came out in the pre-match press conference and said, Sergio Aguero was available to play. He's just chosen not to play him. And like, if stuff like that's going down, I wonder if he's got a future there next season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's the question on everyone's lips at the moment as to how much longer Aguero's got. I mean, I think up until from last January, obviously barring the mid-season break because of COVID, he's only played 12 games. I think so. He's not.
He hasn't.
He's had his issues with. Yeah, he's had his issues with injuries.
January 2020.
Yeah, but I personally, I think it, age-wise, I think City need to look at maybe replacing him in the long term. Obviously, the player on everyone's lips at the moment is Haaland, who's again the last night, which we'll talk a bit later, was absolutely outstanding once again. I mean, he seems to be the only viable candidate really to replace him at the moment. I mean, what do you guys think on that?
Yeah, I think it's difficult. I don't at the moment. I think there is kind of a lack of strikers, I guess. In that sense, I'm trying to think of other names that pop into my head. I mean, obviously the days of Ronaldo. I know he didn't initially start there, but his days as a forward are clearly numbered on last night's display. So yeah, I don't know. Alec, have you got any suggestions for any other forwards? Maybe one at Tottenham.
Certainly not at Tottenham, unless they want Carlos Vinicius once he goes back to Benfica next season. What I would think of Football Manager. I would think of Arezzo, who's playing out in where is he playing now? Colombia, I think, or Chile. He's down there in South America. He's like a young 18-year-old kid. He's going to have a fantastic future. There are a few others that I'm thinking of as well. I don't know. Yeah, it's difficult to say. I don't think they're going to get anyone that's going to come in and lead the line. I think we're looking at Gabriel Jesus leading the line for the next year or so, at least, unless they can bring in a Haaland. But if they do bring in Haaland, they're going to have so much competition for this with Chelsea. I'm sure the big teams in Europe will be going after him. Barcelona, well, maybe not Barcelona, because but Bayern Munich.
Leeds have been touted to sign it. I've heard that before. I've heard that. Yeah. I mean, like they've just kicked off now actually against Southampton, and neither Jesus nor Aguero is in the starting 11. They've actually started without a recognised striker. So, I mean, it's something that obviously the Spanish national team managed to achieve, winning back-to-back tournaments without playing a recognised striker. Do you think that's what Pep's going with at the moment? Because there's definitely quality in that team to to score without needing Aguero up front or even De Bruyne, because obviously he's been injured recently. But do you think this is going to be the way forward for City now? I mean, providing they do win the Premier League this season, do you think they're going to continue playing like this? Or
I don't think it's a sustainable model to play without a striker. I think you can do it in like a few matches, or even like you had the major tournament, like you said, with Spain and stuff like that. But like even that's only like a month long. It's not like you're playing 30 or 40 games in a season, without a striker. You're going to need, depending on how you're going to play, like if you want to play like with a counter, you're going to need like an outlet up there. If you're going to play like really defensively and you want to get a long ball up there, then you want like a big target man up there. You can't. It isn't an effective model across the season, I don't think.
Harry Kane, maybe?
No chance.
No, not an option.
No.
We tried.
He's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. He's the one-club man.
Of course, he has to be
Absolutely.
now.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I think there's only one place to go next, and that's Anfield, of course. What's happened to Liverpool is the big question on everyone's lips. It's 6 home defeats in a row. They've only scored once in that time, and that was a penalty against Man City. Danny, what's going on?
I think that's $1 million question. Yeah, I mean, I think if anyone had the right answer right now, I'm sure Jurgen Klopp would offer a lot of money to find out. Yeah, I think it's probably an element of hangover from last season. Naturally, I mean, obviously they were the champions last season, so there is going to be that sort of hangover of desire, I guess, to want to go again. I mean, you saw it last season with City. City actually struggled to go again. They were close, but Liverpool ultimately pipped them to it. So I think it's a tough one. I do feel what Liverpool do lack and they do miss is probably the fans, that atmosphere. Especially that's why I feel like the home form is just crumbling at the moment. Yes, they could quite easily get on the back of their own players and cause a bit of nerviness. But actually, I think just them being there and creating that atmosphere would actually just win them a couple of games alone. Like, for example, the Fulham game, I feel without fans is a tough one for Liverpool. Fulham they're playing for their lives. They're playing to stay in the league. They're in I think they came into it in good form as well. They were on the up trajectory. How does Jurgen Klopp look to motivate those players when there's no one in the stands to cheer them on for that type of game?
I mean, I guess it sparks the whole debate. Really, has the lack of fans benefited the home team or the away team? I mean, but you have to look. For me, you have to look at Liverpool, and they've been extremely unlucky with injuries, which was something that they got away with last season because it was only really Henderson after the restart when he was out for a month. I think that they really had an issue with. But apart from that, they had a clean bill of health and had the best team in the league, probably arguably one of the best teams that the Premier League have seen in the last 5-10 years. But they've been so unlucky with the defensive injuries. It just it never seems to stop. I don't know whether it's a problem in training, whether they're overexerting themselves or what. I mean, take out the Van Dijk injury against Everton earlier this season, and it seems to be an ongoing problem. But you also can look at it and say, well, their front three are all fit, and most of the bulk of their midfield are also match fit,
and they're just not scoring.
Yeah, they're just firing blanks. So Salah, especially, I know he's the top scorer at the moment this season, but he seems a bit lost. At some point, Mane doesn't seem to have the desire at the moment. Firmino, obviously, he's starting to drop out of the team a little bit more now that Potter's back. But Alec, what do you make of it, and what did you make of the performance against Fulham?
Fulham are my second team, so I thought Fulham's performance was fantastic on the night. From a Liverpool perspective, very unlucky with injuries, certainly, no question about that. I think that is symptomatic, actually, across the Premier League, because we're getting 2-3 games a week. Spurs, we had like 5 games in 7 days or something ridiculous at the beginning of the season. So there are teams picking up injuries. Newcastle, Sheffield United had like a dozen injuries each.
And COVID problems as well, countless COVID problems.
Also, though, something that I've heard, something that I understand is that apparently, and I don't know, this might just be speculation or whatever, but Mo Salah isn't. I understand Mo Salah's not happy that Sadio Mane is on more money than he is.
Right.
And that kind of thing could go towards explaining why they aren't, if they've had a falling out, if they're no longer best buds, even if it isn't like a financial thing, then because you can just see they're just not like performing as they were. I think Jamie Carragher said there's not the aggression there, there's not the intensity there that there was last season, and you can see that they're not pushing like they were last season, not at all.
Yeah, I mean it's been quite enough, and especially you look at the teams that they've lost to. I mean, obviously, what was it, 68 games at Anfield unbeaten, and then they go and lose at home to Burnley. No disrespect, of course, but aren't the best travellers. Brighton as well. I mean,
didn't they?
What's that? Sorry.
Arsenal struggled against them, didn't they?
Arsenal did. Yeah, Arsenal did struggle against them. And look at Brighton as well. Brighton have had huge issues with sticking the ball in the back of the net, but they still managed it at Anfield.
Exactly.
Obviously, Chelsea as well. Doing very well under Thomas Tuchel. Who we'll actually move on to next. I think Monday Night Football Everton, a possible sticky one for them because Everton have been absolutely outstanding as far as I'm concerned this season. What do you make of Chelsea so far, Danny, this season?
They've looked quite good actually since Tuchel's come in. If I said his name right. No, they've been decent, to be honest. And yeah, you kind of build it quite nicely. They played an Everton side who obviously have had a good season. They're a side that are doing very, very well. I feel like although I was quite sad with the Lampard sacking, because you naturally want him to do well. You want a player of his stature who's gone into coaching. He did okay at Derby, actually. He wasn't too bad there, but obviously not good enough, just missing out. But, you wanted him to succeed, but, you can't deny the impact that's sort of been apparent since that change has happened. Suddenly they're playing a bit more organised, a bit more disciplined. Defensively, they look a lot more solid.
Yeah.
I personally really like they play, I think, a 3-4-2-1 or something like that. I quite like the 3-5-2 personally when I'm coaching. So it's quite similar to that. So I actually really like how their wing backs and their back three are playing at the moment. They're doing really well. What is a good season for them? It's got to be top four, isn't it? Really, I think maybe I don't know if they're still cup competitions. They're still in the FA Cup, aren't they? They beat Barnsley.
Yes, they're still in the FA Cup. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe a run in that.
Quarterfinals. And
but that's about it, really. Yeah.
I mean, they're in decent position as well in the Champions League. They got the away goal at Atletico, which is no mean feat. They're flying really at the top of the league. But yeah, no,
I think I was going to say, I think the real signal for it will be if suddenly Werner and Havertz, Havertz, right? Yeah, if those guys really start sort of performing, and from Werner's perspective, start scoring goals, then that will really sort of pay off this move that they've done. But yeah, from a personal standpoint, anyway, longer term, I think Chelsea as a club need to have maybe a think about their strategy in terms of changing managers. Like, do they want to just chop and change all the time? However, going back to it, as I say, I agree with this appointment. I think it's a good move for them, and hopefully he's going to be there for a little while, longer than Frank Lampard, anyway.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. I think I feel really bad for Lampard. I like him, as a person. I think he like you said, he did well at Derby. Considering where they are, Derby are now, he did a good job there. But for me, and I thought this at the start of the season, especially at this point with FFP, always lurking in the shadows, and with the impacts of the pandemic as well, teams haven't been able to spend a lot of money, and to spend a lot of money would be ill-advised, but yet they, have spent a quite considerable amount of money, several hundred million on players, and unfortunately, especially with Chelsea, with their record of sacking managers, you look at Di Matteo. I think he might have been on a short-term contract anyway when they won the Champions League, but they let go of him. Conte didn't last very long after he won them the title. Mourinho didn't last long after he won their first two, and again when he won it in 2015, didn't last particularly long after that. Sarri, who I felt really bad for, to be honest. What did he win them? Europa League, and they finished in the top four. That was a very good season for them, given the dominance of City and Liverpool, and they sacked him. So I think going back to what you were saying about a good season for them, I mean, top four given the competition. I mean, the competition this year is incredible, but top four really, and you're going to have to really look at an FA Cup win. But again, if you're going to win the FA Cup, you're probably going to have to beat Man City, and apart from United, no one seems to be able to do that at the moment. Alec, what are your thoughts quickly on Chelsea?
Well, the first thing that I was going to say is I think Tuchel's only got a contract until the end of next season at the moment. I think he only signed like a 1.5-year deal.
Yeah.
So that's quite indicative of Chelsea kind of, I don't know, maybe getting sick of paying out all of these millions and millions of pounds to sack their managers and can just let their contracts run out in the next year. Yeah, but they look very good. They look very defensive. What I noticed on Monday was a lot of German accents flying around on the football pitch, which isn't much of a surprise considering there's like 3 Germans out on the pitch and they've got a German coaching team. But the way that I heard some Tuchel say something to the striker, what's his name, Havertz and Werner. So yeah, he said to Werner, "You've been out on the left for like 15 minutes. Why don't you come over onto the right? You're supposed to be changing," and stuff like this. He's a very instructive manager. He is very meticulous in the minutiae of what he's managing. He wants almost like he's playing FIFA or something. You know, he knows where he wants every player on the pitch to be, where they need to be receiving the ball, and when they're going to receive the ball and everything. So yeah, I don't know. He looks very interesting. He's had a very good start. Everton might consider themselves a little unlucky, but yeah, I think the future's bright for Chelsea, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just look ahead briefly while we're talking about the big 3. Look ahead to the weekend games. Chelsea, what can you see them finishing comfortably in the top 4 at the moment, or I mean, or is it, or do you think they've got a bit of a fight on their hands with the teams below them? Everton, West Ham doing very well. Can you see them struggling at this point, or do you think with the run that they're on, they'll stay there?
Everton, Everton, Leicester, and West Ham obviously don't have that much of a pedigree. I don't think in terms of finishing in the top 4. They're not considered part of the Big 6. And when you've got teams like Arsenal and Spurs underperforming, then there's an opportunity there for them to get in. In Chelsea's perspective, I think they'll be safe. I think they're home and host in the top 4, as far as I'm concerned. If anyone's going to fall out of it, it's Leicester. They're on a run at the moment, and if anyone's going to fall out of it, it's Leicester.
Let's move on to Leicester. You might say they got away with it a little bit with Brighton on Saturday night. I watched the game. They looked good going forward, especially with the injuries that they've got. No Barnes, no Maddison. Brighton was always potential to be a tricky game, and they did take them to a last-minute winner to get the points. But Danny, do you think Alec's right? Do you think they are in danger of slipping out the top 4 like last season, or can you see them, reigniting their early season form?
I mean, it would be a shame if that happened. If I'm being perfectly honest, I think there's something to romanticise about Leicester and the Premier League. Obviously, with their title-winning season, but I think under Brendan Rodgers, they've been a really fascinating watch. And those players you've listed a few. Maddison is one. Obviously, I followed and known about for a little while as a Norwich fan. But they play some really, really nice stuff. I do worry because I do think those injuries may cause some issues and may result in them just slipping out, maybe a Europa League spot again. I don't know. I think it's going to be really tight. I do. I agree with what Alec said about Chelsea. I think Chelsea are probably just about safe. I think it's then basically a scrap between sort of Leicester. I'd say West Ham. I can't believe West Ham are up there, but West Ham and obviously Chelsea. You know what? Even though Tottenham are a little bit further down, I'd still say you're still in quite a good position. You can still grab that spot. So Yeah, I think it's between like 4 or 5 teams for that final spot, if I'm being honest. And Leicester, I would hope, is one that could get it, but they've been a bit hit and miss, haven't they, recently? And to be fair, they just about came through against a Brighton side who are really, really good, but just not getting any results at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I think slipping out of the Europa League was disappointing in the manner in which they did it. I mean, losing 2-0 at home, Brendan Rodgers would have been very disappointed with that result. But I think that might help them the rest of the season because it's a Thursday game. You don't really want a Thursday game where you're travelling somewhere in Europe and then having to fly back and then play on the Sunday. I think that might benefit the team fitness-wise because they don't have the strongest squad there. But I was surprised to see them come back to win that one against Brighton. I thought Brighton were in control of the game for a fair amount, especially after they went 1-0 up. But they got another good opportunity the weekend. Actually, they're at home to Sheffield United, who looked doomed really. I think any winners at the moment for them is a stay of execution. But I think that's a good opportunity for them to get back to form. Let's just a little bit time conscious, so let's move on to Spurs. Alec, big win for you guys over Palace, another very tricky team to come up against. What are your hopes? Can you make the top 4? Really, with the consistency in the team, or what do you think?
I would say yes. At a push, I would say and this is the football manager in me coming out, but until it's mathematically impossible, then you can't rule it out. In the same way that Newcastle fans might think that they're safe, but they won't be until the last season, and then they'll go down. I think anything can happen. Absolutely, yeah. We're going to push for it all the way. There's no question. We've got Bale coming into form. Sonny looks like he's gone off the boil a little bit, but I think we'll give him a little bit of a rest, and I think he'll come back. And I think he'll come back for the last few games of the season. We're in the final against Manchester City, as everybody likes to point out, of the League Cup, and we're still in the Champions League, in the Europa League. So we'll see what happens. We're fighting on all fronts, and we want to give it everything. There's no reason why we can't come back with some silverware.
That's very true. I agree with you. Bale, I was quite surprised when they brought him back. I thought that was a bit of a bizarre signing, but there you go. But he's been relatively disappointing up until the last few games. But I think now you're right. He has come back into form. He's scoring goals. He's looking very impressive. I think as well that takes the pressure off Son a little bit because if either one of Kane or Son aren't firing 100%, then neither of them are, and then the goals dry up. But now you've got an extra weapon in your arsenal there. I think that's really beneficial. To be honest, I think that's going to really help Spurs really with their top 4 push. You look ahead of the fixtures this week. You've got Dinamo Zagreb, of course, on Thursday before the big one at the Emirates on Sunday. How many points are you getting out of those two, or are you gonna win the first leg?
Win.
Win.
Win. There's no question. I know Spurs haven't won at the Emirates since that 3-2 a few years back. I understand. But I think where Arsenal are now, and where Spurs are, I think they're two different positions. Really, Arsenal are a team in transition, and Spurs, we look like we've got something coming together. We've got a few runs on the bounce. Morale's going to be high. Should pick up another win Thursday against Zagreb. that's a lot. I see a lot of people saying that's going to be ridiculously easy. I know. Again, as a Football Manager player, Dominic Livakovic is their goalkeeper, and he is very good. And I really rate this guy, and I think that Zagreb could be a stumbling block for us. But yeah, it'll be a tough game. We'll get through it, and obviously we've got they switched to ties, didn't they? That was another thing that I was going to say. They switched to ties. Yeah. So Spurs are now at home in this leg when they were going to be away. Arsenal have to go out to Greece and come back, and hopefully that'll tell in the last 10-15 minutes when they're running around with their knuckles dragging across the ground.
Well, yeah, I mean, just a little side note actually on that, what you were just saying about the ties being reversed. I'm not sure if you guys knew this, but the reason being was because obviously both Arsenal and Spurs were drawn at home, but Arsenal had priority on playing the first leg away because they won a domestic cup competition in the Premier League last season, and Spurs did not. That is the reason why they had priority. I'm not really sure what it's got to do with anything, but that was my explanation.
Did they choose to have the priority to play away?
I believe so. I mean, I think it's an advantage to play that first leg away, personally. But yeah, I think they chose to have it away, and then obviously as they had first refusal, Spurs had to play their first leg at home. But with no fans, it's kind of, for me, it's kind of by the by. But
yeah,
obviously Arsenal felt differently. Danny, what are your thoughts on Spurs this season?
Yeah, actually, I kind of wanted to ask Alec a question as well, if that's all right. In terms of Spurs and a successful season, would you? I'm sure you'd happily take a trophy and top 4 finish, but if you had to choose one, which one would you want?
I'd take the silverware right now. I'd take the League Cup, yeah, because that's going to get us into Europe anyway. It wouldn't matter. I think when we came into the season, we were looking at maybe top 4, top 6, and some silverware as a successful season. It kind of petered out. I mean, we were down in 9th, 10th. We were also top of the league, but it kind of petered out a bit. We're coming back a little bit now, and we can make a little bit of a run towards the end of the season with the fixtures that we've got left. But I'd take silverware, really, to be honest. I know if you ask Daniel Levy the same question, he's going to say Champions League because of the money. But because I'm a fan, because my granddad's buried in the cemetery on White Hart Lane, silverware, no question about it,
Yeah. I even though I'm not obviously a Spurs fan, that would be the answer I sort of choose. I think you've got to go for some silverware this year. Get the. It's not so much of a hoodoo, but get a trophy in the cabinet.
Winning
get everyone celebrating.
Yeah.
And then go from there, really. But yeah, I think in terms of North London derby, it's going to be interesting. I think, as you've mentioned, as Alec has mentioned really well, 2 teams at differing ends. Arsenal very much in transition. I think they've been hit and miss. They've had some really, really good spells this season and played some nice football. But I think they get unstuck against some odd teams, if you get me. They'll put in a decent performance against City or Chelsea or someone like that. And they'll put in a battle, but to play Burnley and to get almost undone, kind of really sums them up at the moment. They're not quite at their full potential, put it that way. In my opinion, I think Tottenham will be the stronger team in this game, and I would expect and I'd hope that they come away with the points for Alec, so that he can achieve Champions League football and his League Cup win.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at Arsenal briefly before we go to the bottom of the table. Like you said, the draw at Burnley wasn't a great result, and especially in the way it came around. Obviously, the way the equaliser happened would have been massively frustrating for Arteta. I mean, I thought that the days of defensive mistakes like that were behind. I thought the days of Granit Xhaka giving the ball away and doing stupid things like that was done, but clearly not.
I'm not sure he's a real footballer.
Yeah, Alec, I know you. If you could be as unbiased as possible, that would be brilliant. But Arsenal, could they maybe make a late season push for possibly you're looking at the top 6 now?
Top 6 isn't out of the reach for them, certainly. Yeah. They're in a little bit like Spurs, I suppose. I mean, they're still in Europe, and they do have things to fight for. They shouldn't by any means give up just yet. But I think it would be amazing to see Leeds United finish above them. Yeah, like I say, I think they'll be all right. I think Arsenal will slowly, even if it isn't this season, some of their fans might not even want European qualification. If it is going to be 6th place, because isn't that the Europa Women's League now?
Yeah, I can't remember what the exact name of it is, but it's sort of like
Europa Women's League.
Yeah, we'll stick with that. The Europa Women's League, that'll do, or the Europa Johnson's Paint Trophy League, or whatever.
I like it.
But yeah, no, I agree with you on that one. Arsenal have been a strange team this year with the undoubted quality they've got up front. Obviously, Aubameyang, I know he's getting on a bit. But obviously he's still a world-class striker, in my opinion. Lacazette, don't really know where I stand with him, to be honest. He seems to come on and play okay some weeks and just completely disappear. I thought Martin Odegaard was a bit of a bizarre signing in January, personally. I thought, obviously, he was the next big thing when he was 16 and went to Real Madrid, but no one seems to really... And then, obviously, he played at Sociedad for a little bit as well, but he seems to have gone off. He seems to have gone off the boil, and he's not really put in the performances that I thought he would since he joined. Obviously, for me, Arsenal's defensive problems will never really leave. I mean, even in the latter years of Arsene Wenger, it seems to be a huge problem, and Arteta doesn't seem to be any closer to solving that, despite all the work he's done with Pep Guardiola over the last few years. But yeah, I think 6th or whatever position it is for the Europa League or the Europa Women's League, I think it is a bit of a stretch. I think you're right, Alec. I think a season without Europe would be good for them because they can then go and strengthen in the summer. I think shore up that defence and put a challenge in. I think with the potential they got in that team, not just for the Europa League, but I think the top 4, that will be the goal for Mikel for next season. Danny, just quickly, what are your thoughts on Arsenal this year?
Yeah, I sort of echo what you guys have said. I don't think they're too far away. They just need a sort of to put a run together. A couple of results on the bounce, and then all of a sudden they're in touching distance of that Europa League spot. I think going back to the Spurs discussion, I think if they came away with a trophy, some silverware, I think that is success for them more than European qualification this year. So, unfortunately, what's that? That's only Europa League now, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I mean that in if it was that alone, that's still a great feat for Arsenal. So I'm sure they'd be keen on that. I think in terms of like the players, I feel defensively, I think you kind of mentioned it's not really going to improve too much under Arteta. I think it's more personnel change. It needs to. They need to match up the personnel to how he wants to play. And I'm sure it was probably similar to some extent with Wenger. Obviously, Wenger had he had a lot more time, so no excuses for him to bring in players. But, I mean, the game's kind of progressed now. It's a bit more ball-orientated defenders, ball-orientated centre-backs. And, yeah, they've somewhat got it, but they've got mistakes in them. And that's their issues. And finally, just in terms of the attackers, one person I think we didn't mention was Smith Rowe.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, really like him.
Impressive,
I think he's been a good addition to them because they were looking for someone in his position. They were looking for a Buendia, and thankfully they found Smith Rowe instead. But to be honest, that kind of character, a Smith Rowe or a Buendia, is actually what they need. They need something like that. They're a little bit flat when they attack sometimes, in my opinion, anyway.
Smith Rowe, another example of how going on loan to the Championship really, or anywhere in the Football League, can massively help with players. I think he was at Huddersfield. But yeah, let's have a look. Let's have a little look at the bottom of the table. I mean, we touched on a little bit. Sheffield United earlier lost 2-0 to Southampton. I think they've won a few games recently, but their goose is pretty much cooked now, don't you think, Alec? What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, done and dusted. The season's been over for a while. Even I think it's when the manager comes out and says that they're looking to buy the best Championship players, and that's him being honest with the press. That I think when he's saying stuff like that, I think he knows that it's done and dusted. Even if they stand a slim chance, I don't think. I think last season they were very good. I think they surprised quite a few teams. The thing is, with the beginning of the season, especially when you're a weaker team, is that motivation and determination are quite important. And so if you suffer like 3 defeats on the bounce in your first 3 games, even in your second season in the Premier League, then there's going to have that kind of effect for the rest of the season. And you might be able to fight against it. You might be able to cajole players into doing what you want them to do, or whatever. But I think there's no question, unfortunately, for Chris Wilder and his team that they'll be playing the likes of Queen's Park Rangers and Norwich City next. Oh, not Norwich City, actually.
Hopefully
the likes
not.
of Queen Park Rangers next season. I take that straight back.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I feel for them. I think they overachieved last season personally, but they were very impressive, very hard to break down. Did score a lot of goals, but kept a few clean sheets. But yeah, I mean, to get 2 points from the first 18 odd games, you don't really. I mean, I think at that point you just try and beat the 2008 Derby team that got relegated. I think you try and get more than just the 11 points. But yeah, I feel for them.
But on the Titanic.
But personally, I think Chris Wilder would be not too disappointed to see the back of the Premier League. I think there's a lot about it, especially with stuff like VAR and the standard of refereeing, that he's not a particularly huge fan at the moment. And I think he just wants the season to be over so he can rebuild and mount a promotion challenge with them next season. Just quickly, Danny, what are your thoughts on them, on Sheffield United?
Yeah, I think it's fair. They've struggled. It's a classic sort of second season syndrome.
Yeah.
I had a sneaky feeling they were going to struggle, not to this extent last year, just because of the way they played. Once teams figure them out, is there going to be some kind of weakness? And I wouldn't say teams have really figured them out. I think it's just more a case of they've just not really turned up. So I think Chris Wilder's done a great job. I hope he stays, and I hope Sheffield United rebuild and look to come back up again. my only sort of query and I guess critique would be along the lines of the recruitment. I think their recruitment hasn't been great over the past couple of seasons. And I wouldn't just put
Ryan Brewster signing was testament to that, wasn't it?
And I wouldn't just put it down to personnel. I would put it down to as well, like some of the figures involved is a bit eye-watering when you see, I think it's Ryan Brewster and all that, and those kind of figures. It just, it's eye-watering. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I think the Brewster signing was crazy for me. I mean, I'm not saying he's not a good player. He's a very, very promising player for the future. He played at Swansea last season and he looked really good then. I thought he looked like he could be a really good player. Young, but obviously still competing at the Championship. And he didn't really help Swansea to an awful lot last season, as it's still in this season. But yeah, I just felt like they made a few they didn't really strengthen where I thought they needed to strengthen. Spent a bit too much money where it wasn't needed, and I just think they haven't been up to the intensity of the league.
You know what they remind me of? They remind me of Bournemouth in that extent, in that sort of area. They've kind of overspent in some of those areas. I don't know. Yeah.
So we touched on Fulham. I think we'll finish off the Premier League stuff before we move on to have a brief chat about the Championship. But we touched on Fulham a little bit earlier with their fantastic, absolutely outstanding win at Anfield. And I think the less said about West Brom against Newcastle, the better, because that was an absolutely terrible match of football. I'd never want to put myself through again. So Fulham, Alec, what are your thoughts, and also your three who are going down this season?
Oh, okay. All right. So, Fulham have been, I think Scott Parker's done a really, really good job there. I remember watching them on the first game of the season, and they looked done and dusted. I would have put my house on them going down on the first day of the season. And I know there's 37 games left, but they looked awful. They were people were writing them off at the very beginning. Scott's done a fantastic job. He's bought in, managed to find players like that defender, Joachim Anderson, is it?
I believe so, yes, yeah.
Yeah, on loan from Lyon. Like that guy's come in there and he's been fantastic. Alphonse Areola, the keeper, is somebody that I've known for a while personally. I don't have his mobile number or anything, but I've known him for a while. I knew him because he was playing at PSG he wasn't getting first team football there. So yeah, he's obviously proven himself to be outstanding. I think I really believe that Fulham can push and can get out of this, and I've got a feeling it's not going to be Newcastle that go. I've got a feeling it's going to be Brighton.
Okay.
So I put Brighton in the bottom three instead of Fulham, and I'd take so that would be West Brom, Sheffield United, and Brighton as my bottom three.
Okay, Danny, thoughts on Fulham and your three to go down?
Yeah, so again, I feel like we're agreeing a lot, which is probably a good thing, probably a bad thing as well. But yeah, Fulham, I think, have been, considering where they were at the start, they've shown some great improvements, and that's testament to obviously Scott Parker. Jonny, as a fan of a team that have come up through a playoff final, that turnaround between winning the playoffs and then the start of next season is pretty short as it is, and let alone we've had a COVID sort of 2 years where those 2 seasons have got a little bit closer. I think he's done really well. I hope that they can turn it around. I think that they've just got to keep momentum going. They've just got to keep getting those results, and all it is keep picking up little points here and there. And having that belief. I mean, obviously they went for the jugular and beat Liverpool, but even just picking up a point, is enough. They just need to be picking something up from games. I think they can do it. I genuinely think they can do it. I think they've got a good side, good manager. Yeah, I think they can do it, and I hope they do it as well. In terms of the other teams, I really hope that Brighton beat the drop, just because I really like how they've played. I like Graham Potter as a coach. I think I watched obviously his Swansea side last year, and they were outstanding. And I think he was the same the season before. I think when Norwich went up, I'm pretty sure he was there then, and I was like, that's the best side we played all season, bar Leeds, I guess. And yeah, I mean, Graham Potter's sides are really fun to watch. I just worry that they're not quite finding the back of the net yet. They need a bit of luck. They need it to go off the post, or they need some bit of luck to get the momentum going. And I feel like they have been unlucky. I mean, you look at I think it was the West Brom game, the Lee Mason, the free kick. Yeah, I mean, I won't say too much about that.
No, you're all right.
But yeah, like they needed those moments to go for them, and at the moment it's just not gone for them. So I think their luck will change. When it does, I think they're going to be dangerous. But at the moment, if it continues as it is, they're going to slip in. But in all honesty, my three, I think it's going to be Sheffield United, West Brom, and I would say Newcastle at the moment, because I think they're a little bit of an all sorts.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think Brighton have just been missing. I know it's a big part of the game, but they just haven't been sticking the ball on the net. I think they had about 70 odd shots with over 3 games and only put one of them in the net. And obviously but I think with situations like that, it's just all about, the floodgates will open at some point. They'll play a team, they'll score one, and then they'll score a few. And I thought they'd do that against Leicester, but obviously Leicester came back to win that one. Fulham, have been really good. Really good recently. I like you, Alec. I had them to go down. They're a bit of a yo-yo team, a little bit like Norwich. No disrespect to any, of course, but they seem to be too good for the Championship, but not good enough for the Premier League. But I honestly can see them staying up this season. I really can, and especially actually they've got Newcastle last game of the season, so that could be a huge. That could be that. I mean, who knows? The way they're going, Newcastle could be down already. But yeah, for the Toon Army, I think they're missing Callum Wilson. Obviously, he's out with injury, and they had a huge problem with COVID cases and games in hand. Alan Saint-Maximin, he was out for a while, and so was Jamal Lascelles. I think they both suffered with long COVID symptoms, which is obviously horrible, and hopefully they'll get better soon. But Saint-Maximin's missed a hell of a lot of the season, which is a huge miss for them. So I do feel for them. I like Newcastle. I like Steve Bruce. I like what he's done with the team. I don't think anyone else could have been any. I don't even think Pep Guardiola could go into that team and change them, because of the lack of financial backing they've got is astonishing, really. So yeah, I feel for Brucey, I really do. But yeah, like you, I think it's Sheffield United, West Brom. Don't know. They're okay, but Big Sam. I don't think Big Sam's gonna pull off another.
Too much of a task, sure.
Way too much of a task. Bring him in at the start of the season, and then I think he probably keeps them up. But no, I think they're gone as well, unfortunately. So it's Newcastle, Sheffield United, West Brom for me. We'll have a quick look at the Championship. I'm a little bit conscious of time before we just have a look back at the Champions League from last night. Danny, what can I say? Only 2 other teams in recent years have got more points than Norwich at this stage of the season, and both have gone on to win the Championship title. So is it another trophy for Daniel Farke, or
Hope so.
Yeah,
hope so. I think for all of us, it's probably the focus is trying to just get promotion. So for me, I'm looking. I know some fans get carried away. They're looking at some of them already booked the trophy parade or whatever. It's like, no, you've got to look. I think it's all about that gap between first and third or second and third. At the moment, there's a gap between us and obviously second, third, and fourth. But there's not really much of a gap between those teams.
No,
so
very close.
With that in mind, I think we've displayed a very, very different season compared to last time we were there. We've been a little bit more solid defensively. Skip has been fantastic. Really, really good signing, albeit on loan. Hopefully permanent one day.
My chance.
Ben Gibson as well. They've really sort of strengthened up that back line, and I think it has been a bit more of a mature season. My only concern with how we play is we are, in essence, a bit like a Brighton. We're creating some chances, but we're not really scoring, which is fine at the moment because we're defensively sound enough to stop teams from scoring. But when it gets to the Premier League, we can't be, should we go up, we can't be passing on those amounts of chances, really. So he's a bit bittersweet in that sense. But yeah, hopefully all is going to be good. I mean, we started off really, really bad. Bad start to the season. I remember watching the Derby game when I think Wayne Rooney scored probably his last goal or something.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was a dreadful performance. Literally, this is my only critique, I guess, is sometimes and this is where I think Daniel Farker has actually really learned and taken on board his experience this time, is sometimes we actually played into the other team's strengths. So like that day with Derby, they wanted to play a low block. They wanted us to play centrally. They put all their players centrally. They played a 3-5-2. And what we should have done is we should have played expansive. We should have played wide, quick rotations, quick combinations to unlock gaps. And we did nothing. We literally played at snail's pace. So yeah, I think throughout the season, Farker and his team have actually grasped that teams are going to do that to us, and that's how you unlock them. So yeah, good on the whole, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think the classic, not good enough for the Premier League, way too good for the Championship sort of team. I think it's only West Brom that have actually won the promotions to the Premier League more times than you guys. But yeah, you've been really impressive. You're 10 points clear of Watford and Swansea. I know Swansea have got a game in hand still, and actually so have Brentford, but they're only on 63. But yeah, very impressive. I'm really happy that they kept Daniel Fark on because I think he's a great manager. They could have easily sacked him after last season, which honestly, performance-wise, I thought you actually played pretty well in quite a few of your games last season. It's just the quality is just not there. I think in a way, slightly similar to Sheffield United, where they haven't really been thrashed by anyone that many times, really. Whereas if you saw a team at the bottom, you'd expect them to get a thrashing every other week. But yeah, I think I think you've pretty much gone up this season. I think it will be you. But yeah, I mean, just to touch on QPR briefly. I know we're running out of time a little bit, but I think Mark Warburton's done a brilliant job since the turn of the year. I think it's only Norwich and Watford that have won more games than we have. We won 8 games. Got a very nervy win against Wickham last night and a good win at Ashton Gate on Saturday. And we've beaten, obviously this year we've gone to Watford and won. We've beaten Brentford and Bournemouth at home, Blackburn at home as well, who were doing quite well at the time. So yeah, we're up to mid-table now. With 11 points off the playoffs, so I think it's a bit of a stretch, but we are much further away from the bottom 3. Yeah, so I think maybe next season, if we got Charlie Austin back on loan from West Brom, which is brilliant, really got the fans back on side, and he's been outstanding. Sam Field as well from West Brom, class midfielder. Stefan Johansson as well, another one from Fulham on loan. Played pretty much every game for them last season, and he's just been, he's the class above the rest. He's one of the best midfielders we've had in a long time. Yeah, he's been brilliant. Lyndon Dykes been a little disappointing, got him from Livingston. So I think again, like you've mentioned a few times, a 3-5-2 formation, it's really coming back in fashion now, and it really works for us. And yeah, like you said, it's the way that Derby set themselves up against Norwich at the start of the season. You got your three big centre backs at the back closing down. You got your two wing backs helping out the midfield, helping out the attack, and it shuts a lot of teams down. I think that's the way we played at your place when we got a late point and should have really won. We played that was when we first sort of tried that formation, and it worked like a charm. But
do you think that you can maybe sneak a playoff space at all?
We'd need to we got 12 games left. We've got some winnable ones. We've got Huddersfield and Millwall at home next. We've still got to play Coventry and Sheffield Wednesday at home. Luton at home as well, who aren't doing particularly well. We've still got to go to Rotherham, who have got what seems like a million games in hand at the moment because of their COVID issues. 3 games of course this week. But I'm also conscious of the fact that we've still got to go to Swansea and Reading. We've still got to play Norwich at home. So yeah, and we still got to play I think Middlesbrough and Stoke away, who are in the top half as well. So I think it's a stretch too far this season for us. But if we can finish in the top 10, I think that'd be a really, really good season considering who we've lost. Alec, what are your thoughts? Championship. I know you support a Premier League team, but what are your thoughts on Norwich and the top 6 in general, really?
Yeah, I think it's not much of a surprise to see Norwich coming back up so strongly. Not really. I think they had a fairly decent season last season without the results. Not much of a surprise, I suppose, to see Brentford in the hunt and teams like that. You guys are obviously having a good resurgence and are going to try and push for something. The thing with the Championship is it's always so tight. You're playing like 2 games a week anyway, right? And I only found this out literally a few weeks ago, but you don't get any prize money in the Championship. So like you get like £15 million for finishing 15th or something in the Premiership. You don't get anything in the Championship, regardless of where you finish. All of your money is then coming through like television and sponsorship and stuff like that. And obviously it's a massively tight division. So many teams in there, so evenly matched as well. It's almost like the Premiership in that anyone from top to bottom can beat anyone else. But yeah, Norwich going along nicely. Good to see Brentford up there. Good to see QPR in the hunt. Yeah, not much more to add, I don't think.
If I can just jump in, a wild card one, and Johnny, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. I don't know if you've managed to see these two, but I think my wild card teams to make playoffs are Barnsley, who are red hot in form right now, and I quite like Cardiff under Mick McCarthy. Surprisingly, doing well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Barnsley, they beat us the other week. They beat us as well at Oakwell earlier this season. Usually Barnsley are a team that we really do well against. I think up until last season we'd won 11 home games in a row against them. But Valerian Ismail's come in and he's got that team. I mean, without really adding too much for me, they've still got the likes of Corley Woodrow and Connor Chaplin and Daryl Dyke as well. They've got him from I think it's Orlando. Is it Orlando City on loan?
I think so.
He scored at the Kyle Prince Foundation Stadium the other day, and he scored the winner against Birmingham the weekend. He looks a brilliant player. But you're right. They're absolutely banging form, and they're a point clear of Bournemouth in 7th, and they've got a game in hand actually over Bournemouth. So, which I think is tonight. Actually, they got Derby at home. But I honestly think they're not just a wild card anymore. I think they're they're kind of favourites really to finish in the top 6 if they can keep it up. Bournemouth have been disappointing recently, but yeah, and like you said, Cardiff. Luckily, we played Cardiff twice before they got Mick McCarthy, and we beat them both times, which was very lucky for us. But I was not surprised to see them sack Neil Harris. I didn't really think he'd done as good a job as he should have with a team like that, especially with the likes of Kiefer Moore up front. And I mean, actually, that's the second time Neil Harris has been sacked after losing to QPR in as many years. He got sacked at Millwall after losing at home to us at the Den in September 2019.
There you go.
And obviously,
The curse of QPR.
It's the curse of QPR, and I'm kind of happy for us to go and ruin someone's job. But yeah, I mean they're unbeaten in what is it 10 I think now, and yeah, I mean I think they're 3 points behind Barnsley. The game played a game more, but I think they're not a bad shout as well. I think personally, I think I think Norwich will go up, and Norwich and Swansea. I think Swansea look very good. They've had a huge couple of strokes of luck recently. Especially against Middlesbrough. I'm not sure if you saw some of the refereeing decisions in that game, but Mr. Warnock was far from pleased, I think, if we can, to put it lightly, and I agree with him. I thought some of the decisions in that game were absolutely baffling, personally, but I think, Norwich and Swansea to go up. Brentford, I thought, were a shoo-in to go up. I thought they were the best team in the league, barring Norwich up until a few weeks ago. But they went on that big unbeaten run, and then they lost to Barnsley at home and lost to us at the Kind Prince Foundation Stadium, and then lost to Coventry as well. They've gone off the boil, and I just fear for teams like Brentford that they're going to have the curse of the playoffs again, because they've played 9 times in the playoffs now and never won one, and you can just see them getting dragged back into it. They're 3 points behind Watford again, albeit with a game in hand. But you do fear that they're going to get dragged in. Reading have had another good season as well. Reading have looked quite solid, and I think they'll probably finish in the top 6 as well. So, yeah, it's going to be a very interesting end to the season, I think, in the Championship. Just very quickly at the bottom, Wickham 12 points from safety. Now, having played all their games, they've had a good season, but not really quite good enough. And then you've got Sheffield Wednesday, 7 points of safety, and Rotherham with a few games in hand, 3 points. And then you've got Birmingham, Coventry, and Derby, and Huddersfield hovering above. Danny, who can you see going down this season?
Sadly, I think it's going to be Wickham. I like Wickham. I thought they actually put in a really, really, really good performance against Norwich.
Yeah.
And I watched them play. Who did I watch them play? It may have been Reading the week or so before.
They beat Reading, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they are Wickham are a tough team. I feel it's a shame actually that this is the season that they've gone up, because I feel with fans there, they would have been incredible.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be quite enough. I feel like it is going to be Sheffield Wednesday as well. Obviously, they've had that points deduction that's not helped things at the start from the get-go. They've done well to obviously recuperate those points, but I feel what they've done, a lot of the things behind the scenes, changing managers. I'm pretty sure they had Pulis at one point, and then Pulis left. It's too much turnover, I think. Unfortunately,
even without that 6 point, there was 12 points at the start of the season, but then they got it reduced to 6 halfway through. So even without that 6 point deduction, they're still in the bottom 3. They're on 34 points, which is a point behind Birmingham. So you do have to look at it as a.
It's like that, yeah. Agreed.
Aaron Moore in the other day as well, which I thought was a bit of a strange appointment. He was doing really well at Doncaster, and I thought he might stick it out for them, but clearly
it is a bit of a strange one.
But
my last one would be, I think Rotherham are going to stay. I hope they're going to stay. I think Cov are going to stay, hopefully. So I think it's between 2 teams, in my opinion. I think it's between Huddersfield and Birmingham, and it'll be whoever doesn't want it more. And I've watched both teams. All this COVID football that's on TV now is a real benefit.
Oh, absolutely.
But I feel like it probably is going to be Birmingham. They kind of look a little bit out of ideas at times.
I actually personally, I will come to you, Alec, in a sec, but I personally think Rotherham will go. I think they've got a huge amount of fighting spirit, and they showed that last gasp winner at Sheffield Wednesday. But they've had, they had our game against us was postponed because of COVID. Had another couple as well earlier on the season. We've had 3 this week, away to Brentford, home to Luton, and I think away to Coventry. And it's going to get to the point they've had more positive cases as well. And I think, and there's no guarantee their next week games are going to go ahead either. And they're going to end up, by the time the games are finished this weekend, they're going to end up with 4 games in hand on Birmingham. And I think regardless of the point difference of whether Birmingham get anything this weekend, they're now going to, barring the international break, they're going to have to play every Saturday, Tuesday till the end of the season, and then still have to find time for one other game because they don't have enough time to even play 3 games in a week with all the games they got left. And I personally think, we had a couple of games in hand before yesterday. We still got one more, which is Rotherham, and I'd rather have points on the board than games in hand because you know when you stand where you stand and there's less pressure. So I think unfortunately it's going to be Rotherham, Sheffield Wednesday, and Wycombe to go. I think Birmingham just about going to survive and get away with it because they've been again. They have been in recent years, but they've been a very very poor season. And I think if Karanka can't turn it around in the summer, I think they'll go down next season because they're such a poor team to watch sometimes. But yeah. Alec, what are your thoughts quickly? Who do you think's going up, going down? I know you're not a Championship supporter, but what are your thoughts?
It's okay. I'm all right. I'm okay. I'm not like it's not like we're talking about the South Korean second division. Nothing against, of course. Championship relegation. Yeah, I think Wycombe, Sheffield Wednesday. And I think it is one of the 3 between Rotherham, Birmingham, and Huddersfield. It's interesting, that perspective that you were talking about in terms of Rotherham having so many games as to whether they'll then be able to have the team to win all of those games in hand that they have. But the flip side of that is like Aitor Karanka, the Birmingham City manager, coming out and saying that Rotherham should be investigated because they've had so many positive cases. Like, are they going to face repercussions as a result of that or something along those lines? I don't know. I think it's going to be really difficult for all of those. Well, the 3 teams, I would say, that it's in the balance for. It's not a position that I would want to be in. But as I said earlier, once you fail to gain 3 points in those first few games, everything starts to look a bit more tougher, and everything looks to you're starting to look at games where you should be winning that you're drawing, and things like that.
I think like you said about Karanka, Karanka can ask them to investigate it all he likes, but at the end of the day, Yorkshire's currently got, I believe, the highest rate of COVID cases. It's in one of the few areas of the country where cases are rising instead of falling. So I think it's very easy for him to turn around and say that when this is still a virus we don't know anything about, and it's obviously affected them before, and it will affect them again. Obviously, if they want to investigate whether these players are breaching lockdown rules, then that's something that's different. That's an investigation into rules which can be done by the police or the EFL, as opposed to whether whether their players are, do you see what I mean? It's 2 different investigations for me. Whether they can fulfil the fixture or not is besides the point. Like, they shouldn't have to, unless it goes on any longer, have to play their youth team, which will significantly reduce their chances of winning a game. You would have thought. But obviously, time is running out for them, and I think it might have to get to the point where they either do have to play their U team, or they'll have to forfeit some games.
But I was going to say just quickly, at the moment the point gap, is only 3 points. That's why I still think, with the point gap being so close, all it takes is one game, and all of a sudden, their goal difference is better. But yeah, all it takes is one game for them to turn it around. And say Birmingham lose this weekend, that's four opportunities they've got to do that with a bunch of 16-year-olds. So I'm sure they can get something. I think
you've only got to look at the games they do have. They've still got to play Wickham at home. They still have to play Huddersfield away, and they've got to play Birmingham at home in addition to that, as well as Luton, I believe, and Millwall, who are sort of mid-table. So it's going to be tough, but like you said, it's only 3 points, and actually their goal difference, they were on -8 and Birmingham are on -17. So that's another point at least in itself, really, if you think about it. And just before we finish today, just have a brief look at the Champions League games from last night. I don't think we should talk about the VAR antics again at Signal Iduna Park between Dortmund and Sevilla, because that was just ridiculous. But we'll start with Dortmund. That I think it was a win personally that they wrapped up in the away leg, but what a performance from them again, and again from Haaland. 20 goals in the Champions League in 14 games. He's beat Harry Kane's record. Alec, what did you think of that game, and can they win the Champions League?
I wouldn't say that Dortmund could win the Champions League. I think I just like a brief moment for the goal that never was by Haaland. That angle, that was disgusting. He had no right to put that in from there. Yeah, they got the result they deserved. Sevilla are a good cup side. They've got pedigree in the Europa League. So yeah, good result for Dortmund, but I don't think they're going to be in the last four. Difficult though. I mean, like yesterday with the game with Porto, I think all the teams in the latter stages now of the Champions League, they'll be looking at Porto and they'll want Porto, maybe Dortmund. I think they're the smaller teams, because you're not going to want to go to the Santiago Bernabeu or wherever and try and have to get a win there. You'd be much better off. Obviously, the fans are having an effect, but you'd be much better off facing a team like Porto than Real Madrid, arguably. Although Juve wouldn't agree with that.
That's very true. But yeah, so I agree with you on that one. I think again, and Dortmund have got Haaland, as long as I can keep him fit with the scoring run he's on. Anything's possible. I'm not sure they will win the Champions League. I think someone's got to beat Bayern personally to win it. So it's but they're in the quarterfinals in with a shout. I'm not sure about what you said about Porto, but obviously we move on to the Porto game in a second. But yeah, it was another impressive win, barring the VAR controversy. But yeah, Sevilla, I thought, would have maybe come back, and I wouldn't have been altogether surprised if they had come back to win that tie. They, like you said, they've got pedigree in European competition. They like a win in the Europa League. But no, I think the winning the Champions League is a bridge too far at the moment. Danny, what were your thoughts on the game last night?
Sadly, I haven't really got too much to add because I didn't get a chance to watch that one. I actually watched, obviously, the other game. Which
you watched the Juventus game.
Brilliant. But yeah, I mean, what I will say is, Dortmund, probably their expectations. If they can get into a semi-final, that's brilliant. That'd be really good. I think all it takes is just a good draw. As you saw with Porto last night, a good draw doesn't necessarily mean it's against a weaker team. It can be against a team like a Juventus, who obviously aren't in it anymore. But you've just got to catch them on the right day, I guess. So yeah, you never know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then we'll obviously have a chat about one of the best games in recent history in the Champions League that took place in Turin last night. Obviously, Porto going through on away goals there. I mean, Alec, what did you think about that? I mean, that was just an absolutely mad period of extra time, wasn't it?
The whole game had everything. There was a penalty, there was a red card, there was extra time. There was, oh my goodness, superb goals. That free kick. It was a fantastic advertisement for the Champions League. And you can see why the Juventus owner wants the new format of the Champions League, because then they're not going to be getting knocked out by teams like Porto and Ajax and Lyon,
who they've gone out to the last 3 seasons.
Exactly. Yeah, they just want to keep the money up there, up in the top echelons there. Keep the money within the top clubs, and I think this kind of result is fantastic for the game.
Yeah,
and it would be a shame to take it away.
Yeah, I think it'd be a shame if they personally get a team like City or Bayern, providing City obviously get through, and obviously the same with Bayern. But yeah, I mean, it was a ridiculous game. You would have thought at some point Ronaldo would have jumped in and saved the day, but unfortunately he couldn't do that.
But he was in the wall when he jumped. That was the problem.
that's very true, pun intended. He jumped in, but he saved the day for Porto in the same way. But yeah, it's the first time actually in 15 years that he's not scored in the Champions League group stages, which is quite astonishing, really. But yeah, fair play to Porto. They were down to 10 men for the entirety of the second half and half an hour of extra time. But they were just absolutely brilliant. Pepe at the back was just an
8-year-old Pepe,
animal. I mean, how he's still doing it. I've always thought he was a brilliant centre back, but everything. I don't know how many times he cleared the ball from his own 6-yard box, let alone the penalty area. He was just here, there, and everywhere. It was just what you want to see.
I always thought he was a thug and a nuisance, but he really proved himself to be a half-decent footballer last night.
He absolutely did. He was just here, there, anywhere you possibly could have needed him as a Porto fan or as a Porto manager. He's come in and he's done it. He was just brilliant. And obviously the free kick to what eventually, essentially won the game was pretty bemusing. I think Szczesny would have been disappointed that he didn't maybe save it. But I mean, the wall was so poorly formed, and for a player like Ronaldo, especially to be jumping when he can see it coming under him was disappointing to see. But the scenes when it went in, as I can imagine, obviously if there were fans there, I mean, I was screaming at my TV, and I don't support either team. It was just incredible. But yeah, I was happy to see Porto go through. I really hope that they get a decent draw and they go far this year, because it'd be nice to see the likes of the 2004 win under Mourinho. Speaking of which, I half expected him after they scored that to see him running down the touchline like he did at Old Trafford all those years ago. But yeah, Danny, what were your thoughts on the game? I mean, it was absolute carnage, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible game. I mean, first and foremost, as a coach myself, oh my God, what is that guy doing who got sent off? What are you doing? That is the worst. That drives me mental. When as Jonny knows, I also ref, and when players do that, it really does annoy you. So yeah, I don't see what he's doing there at all. Like, he knows he's on the yellow card. Why is he doing that? But
in a game like that.
Yeah, I know, and he's let down his teammates there, but thankfully they pulled through for him. I thought, Pepe, that was probably one of the best games I think I've ever seen by him.
I think so. Like,
I've not had the pleasure of watching too many games of Pepe, but bar some very, very tasty El Clasicos.
Oh,
But no, he was really good. I actually thought there was probably at least one player who from Juventus who should have been on the winning team, and that for me was Quadrado.
yeah, he was
I
brilliant.
thought he was outstanding last night. I thought as someone who was playing, I think I missed a bit of the start, so I don't know if they were playing wing backs, but as a winger or a wide player in general, his delivery, it was hit and miss. But what I liked about it was he kept peppering. He kept peppering and kept being positive with it. So many times, what annoys me is you get wingers that just want to dribble and they just dribble and they end up dribbling into people, or they've taken 20 touches and by then the chance to cross the ball is gone. Whereas, I mean, what Quadrado did yesterday was he just got it in the box within 2-3 touches, and I really liked that. I thought that was pretty good. Yeah, I thought it was a really good game, actually. A great advert. Hope Porto show that character again, because I think that is a credit to the competition. But no, I mean, I don't think Juventus played particularly bad. I thought they played quite well. I thought Quadrado, as I said, highlighted, was very good. The lad who scored the 2 goals, I forget his name.
Yeah, it was outstanding.
I liked him as well. Yeah, I liked him. But yeah, I mean, they didn't play particularly bad. The only question mark I probably have is Ronaldo didn't really turn up as much as he normally does, I guess. But it's going to happen. He's getting a little bit older now. But yeah, it was a good game. I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you said, I think Chiesa as well deserves special mention. He was brilliant. Like, he scored as well in the first leg. But yeah, he was an absolute nuisance for the Porto defence. And like you said, that Juventus didn't play bad at all. It was just a lapse in concentration at the wrong time, and they just couldn't break Porto down. When they went 2-1 up early in the second half, they should have really then pushed on and won the game in normal time. But you felt the longer the game went on, the more of a chance Porto had. Especially if it had gone to penalties, I think Porto would have ended up winning it. But yeah, let's just have a brief look ahead to tonight's games. Liverpool Leipzig. Liverpool 2-0 up from the away leg. Luckily for them, they're not playing at Anfield. They are playing in Budapest, I believe. The Puskás Arena. Very quickly from you guys, can you see them seeing that one out?
Should do.
Yeah,
absolutely. No reason why not. Yeah, absolutely. Bad run of form, but it doesn't mean much in Europe, I don't think.
No, I don't think so. 2 away goals as well. You need a really good performance there from Leipzig. What do you think? Danny? Should they have any problems?
Yeah, similar kind of thing. I think even in bad form, they've just, are they going to lose by 2 goals? Probably not. So, in theory, they should go through. So, yeah, I think they'll be fine.
And lastly, Barcelona can't do it again, can they? Can they come from that? Well, it was a 4-0 last time, and I know it was from the home leg, but it would take a minor miracle, you would have thought, for them to come back from that 4-1 hammering at home. Alec, what do you think? Can they, or do you think you'd expect to see PSG safely through?
It's the game that I want to watch tonight.
Absolutely, I'm watching that too.
Yeah, I think so. I think it should be I think if I was Poch, I would want it to be quite a quiet affair. I think, don't try and make too much out of it. Just try and keep the advantage, and it's all for Barcelona to do. It's literally all for Barcelona to do. You saw last night maybe the start of Cristiano Ronaldo starting to fade. Are we going to see the star of Lionel Messi starting to fade this evening? I don't know.
Who knows? But it's going to be, I think, undoubtedly, regardless of whether it's the best Barcelona team of all time, it's going to be an extremely tough ask come back from 4 away goals down to go and win that one. Danny, what do you think?
Yeah, agreed. I think if you're approaching this, and yeah, as you said, you're approaching it. If you're Pochettino, the tempo of the game is probably slow. You're looking to slow the game, make sure that there's no intensity in it whatsoever. Yeah, I can't see it. I really can't see it because of those away goals.
Yeah.
I would like to. I think it would be great. It would be great to see it again. But yeah, or even at least go a little bit close to make it entertaining. But yeah, I can't see it. Sadly.
I can't either. And absolutely final question, really simple, one word answer. Danny, who is winning the Champions League?
I thought you was going to ask me who's going to win Barnsley Derby.
You can answer that question if you like. It is goalless at the moment, I hope. Well, but
Champions League. Ooh, I don't know. I would love to see City do well in it.
Yeah, I would too. But can you see them winning it though?
Probably not. I think the favourite's got to be PSG in it. I guess.
Yeah.
You look at the squad. They've got a great squad. I mean, they're dumping Barcelona out so far anyway. Watch it all change this evening, but yeah, I mean they're probably be my favourites on paper. I think.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think PSG want to go one better, obviously after losing the final last season, but after Bayern winning the way that they did against Barcelona in the Champions League last season, they were always, I think, going to beat PSG in the final. Bayern haven't been as comfortable as they have been in the Bundesliga this season. They are being chased quite aggressively by Leipzig at the moment. So yeah, on current form, I probably would agree and go PSG. Alec, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm in agreement there. Yeah, I'll go with PSG. I hope from my perspective that Poch gets his hands on that trophy because he couldn't do it with us last year. And so we'll see. I don't know. Yeah, Bayern Munich are the other ones. Like you guys say, there's a lot of competition, but I think the favourites have got to be PSG and Bayern.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right. I think that comes to the end of tonight's episode. It's been absolutely brilliant having you both on, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you, sir.
Danny,
No
how can we follow you on social media, Danny? If you'd like to be followed on social media.
Yeah, feel free to. It's mostly Norwich, but it's not a lot to be honest either. But yeah, it's at Danny Cook 1996 on Twitter. I don't really use the other platforms that much anyway. So yeah.
Okay, and Alec, yourself, are you on social media? And if so, how can people reach you?
I'm on the Book of Face, and anybody interested in this was probably only listening to it for my voice.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. Personally, you can follow me at Jonny Naidoo on Twitter. That's JONNYNNAIDOO. Sorry, for some rather biased tweets about QPR and those jokers at Buckingham Palace recently. So, yes, mentioned at the start of the show, all of the shows are available for catch up on Spotify, iTunes, and on our website at halftimecover.com. You can also follow Halftime Cuppa on Twitter using our handle at halftime_cuppa. And of course, as I said, my personal account is at Jonny Naidoo on Twitter, should you wish to follow. Thank you very much to my guest, Tottenham fan Alec Swansborough, and of course, Norwich City fan Danny Cook. Until next time, stay safe and goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.